Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙨. Joining me today is Savio Rodrigues as we take a look at what is facing brand Modi and what's coming up on for the 2024 elections. Has the brand Modi taken a beating because of the loss in Karnataka, which many see as a significant loss? If it was a narrow loss, someone can understand, but so there are some, concerns that have come up. We are going to talk to Savio Rodrigues, who's going to put on his political commentator hat, what went right, what went wrong, and we're also going to talk about the new strategy that Modi has started formulating in terms of how he wants to include the Christian community into his fold of Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. So let's welcome Savio. Savio, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. Thank you, Sri, for inviting me once again.
The pleasure is always mine, Savio. So a lot of people have talked a lot of things about the Congress victory in Karnataka. However, within days, we are seeing problems. Now, there are people who are saying, to the meter guy, electricity meter guy, we don't consume 200 units. Don't even send us these notices. So they are putting some big notices on their meters saying, don't come, don't bother. We don't consume so much. Likewise, the government has said now, so started putting some conditions about who they can give 3,000 rupees, who they can do this. So these kind of things, why did the BJP not foresee them and say that these are all hawa, especially when they can quote what happened in Punjab, what happened in Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, and what happened in Tamil Nadu, which is a neighboring state. So where do you think they lost the plot in Karnataka?
Sri, the first most important thing is when it comes to an election and when people cast their votes and give a particular political party a mandate, I think it's very important for us to respect that mandate. And therefore, if the people of Karnataka have decided to give the Congress the mandate, then I think as a political commentator and also somebody with a political connect, I respect that mandate. Now, you normally don't get the party you deserve. You normally get the party you need, but you get the party you deserve. So that's really what the situation in Karnataka is all about. And I respect that to the utmost because the voter at the end of the day is supreme, not any government or not any political party. Having said that, the BJP had had made some very critical errors as far as Karnataka is concerned, and errors that was showing itself long before the elections even started. And one of the most critical errors that was showing itself
We seem to have momentarily lost him. He will rejoin. May I request all of you to like this video and also subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so. Savio should be starting back again. As you can see,
yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead, please. Go ahead.
For some reason, I think when you and I talk, the internet gets some trouble. I don't know why. Maybe they just don't like us conversing. Because I don't face it with anybody else. Anyway, so the point I was trying to make is that there were signs of trouble right at the start, which the BJP ignored. The first sign was the sign of corruption. Corruption was the most talked about issue as far as Karnataka was concerned. And this was not even during the election, this was much before the elections. Now, people, you see, corruption at the highest echelons of power really don't bother citizens and voters. But when corruption comes to the lower level and starts affecting them and start causing them a bit of a pain, that's when it becomes a bane for any political party or any government. And that's what happened in Karnataka. A lot of people across the board, including some BJP supporters, had a lot to say about corruption and how they felt that the government was corrupt. Now, it is sad that Congress did not bring these corruptions out to the fore, and therefore they remain as allegations. But when you're talking to people at a ground level, if they were worried and were really apprehensive about the corruption in the BJP government at that point of time, then you have to pay a little attention to that. The second, I'll tell you, there was a conversation I had with a very senior minister in the government, and this had nothing to do with Karnataka, but had a lot to do with Goa. and we were talking about the Lok Sabha elections and who should the candidate be, and for South Goa and North Goa. It was a casual conversation. But I was very surprised when the senior minister told me, he says, see, Savio, at the end of the day, whoever the candidate is does not matter for the Lok Sabha election in Goa, especially South Goa. What matters is Prime Minister Modi's face and Prime Minister Modi himself and the schemes that he has put forth for the people, which is what you have to take to the people at a ground level. And I looked at him with absolute amazement. I was like, listen, Prime Minister Modi was also the face in the 2019 election as far as South Goa was concerned, but the BJP candidate did not win. So I felt at that point of time that there was a certain level of over dependence on Prime Minister Modi, though he's a fantastic brand. At looks at state level elections, the local political leader becomes the most important connect with the people. And if there is a disconnect with the local leader and the people, then whether Modi comes for that election or not, it's not going to make much of a difference. And that's exactly what happened in Karnataka. So this over dependency on brand Modi is actually diluting the brand Modi, because there are many people who remain incompetent, ineffective at a local level, but because they have brand Modi's name and their local senior leaders tell them it's all about Prime Minister Modi, that is when they don't focus on the core essentials of being in the political sphere of life, which is to connect with people at a ground level. No matter how powerful you are, if you are corrupt and it affects a person at a ground level, Modi itself is not going to be able to change any of that if that person at a ground level is affected by your corruption or by your lack of sensitivities towards his issues. So in Karnataka, that is exactly what happened. The over dependency on Prime Minister Modi. In fact, if there was even if they got to 65, it has a lot to do with the hard campaigning that Prime Minister Modi did over the last couple of weeks. Otherwise, they would have been less than 50 if you go by the groundswell that was there. So why is BJP not realizing that Prime Minister Modi is a great brand and that brand needs to be leveraged? It cannot be overutilized. Because when you overutilize like you did it in the Karnataka elections, the question will fall back on Prime Minister Modi and not on the weaker links that existed in Karnataka. Because that was the face that was propagated in front during the elections. And it is a brand that is respected. But at a assembly level elections, many people are looking at what is the local leader going to do for them at that point of time. It's the local issue. So what went wrong? One of the most disappointing aspects for me was when Prime Minister Modi came out and said that he was abused 91 times, by the leaders in the opposition. And I felt that was an unnecessary statement to make, because you are a hero. You are a strong man. That is how people look at you. That is how people respect you. So when you show your weakness out, or you attempt to show weakness out in order to gain a certain amount of sympathy from the people, it might not work, because the people there are looking at their own problems and their own issues, and they see you as a strong man to solve that issue. So the problem was they didn't look at the local issues. It was always about what was happening. We are double engine sarkar because you have, us in the center, it will be good in Karnataka. And that is true. A double engine sarkar does work. But unfortunately, in Karnataka, the levels of corruption were so high that you could all, if you take the credit for being a double engine sarkar when something is good, you should take the discredit for being a double engine sarkar when things are bad as well, right? So people started to feel within at a ground level, and this is something that I've shared with people in the BJP as well, that they were not finding a connect with the local leaders. That was the main problem. And Prime Minister Modi coming in helped them to assuage some aspects of that fear, but it did not solve the problem at a local level. And that is why you had the result that you did. So why is brand Modi getting diluted? BJP within itself, certain local leaders, both at the state level and at the center, there are many of them who are ineffective as is required to be. And it's not required to be, but you have to take stern action against them in order to create a tight ship. because your run up to Lok Sabha 2024 is going to be highly competitive. People are not looking at leaders who are worried about what the opposition is saying. People are looking at leaders who surge ahead without the opposition. Now, because of the intense polarization that happened in Karnataka due to various comments on Bajrang Dal, then they went on to Bajrang Bali, which was very important to give some confidence to the people. But it did not help with the minorities as well, because the minorities had decided en masse to vote against the BJP. Please look at the strategy adopted by the church. The church had a well laid out plan. The Catholic Church over there had a well laid out plan. They decided to encourage people to vote and vote the BJP out. That's how it worked. They did not go about saying, okay, let's not vote, let's not be a part of it. The Catholic strategy has changed. The Catholic Church strategy and the Christian strategy has changed. They are encouraging people to vote. They are encouraging people to come out and exercise their fundamental right to vote and vote the BJP out. Look at what Archbishop Peter Machado of Bangalore had said. I'll just read one statement in his note that was said. Let us send a strong message through these elections that the people of the state will not accept communal agendas. Hijab, halal, azan, and anti-conversion, etc. So you have a Christian archbishop talking about three of the main issues being from the Muslim community, which is the hijab issue, the azan issue, and the halal issue, right? And then he comes to anti-conversion. He has been very vocal against the anti-conversion bill that was coming up in Karnataka, right? Now, there are many debates that you can have on that. So, and some are right and some are absolutely wrong. But there is a certain amount of fear psychosis created in the Christian community by the leaders, the church leaders that are there, and by some of the activities conducted by people within the fringe elements, as the government would call it, in some cases, the fringe elements themselves. Now, for example, let me give you an example. Now, there's a case in Supreme Court going on where Christian organizations have claimed that there have been incidents of atrocities towards the Christians, right? So let's look at some numbers over there. The government advocate, that's Tushar Mehta, in Supreme Court has basically stated that there were 495 cases that the Christians organizations have reportedly put in their affidavit that happened between 2021 and 2022. Okay, and the main states where these incidents have happened have been UP, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Haryana, Bihar, and Odisha. Out of the 495 incidents, Shri, 263 were absolutely not reported at all in any of the government authorities, meaning a police station. They were reportedly cases, but the cases were not reported to a police station if there was any atrocity. Out of the 232 reported to the state government authorities, 73 related to land disputes, family disputes, superstitious practices, and other trivial issues. This is not me saying it. This is the government lawyer saying it in Supreme Court in their affidavit. Okay? The remaining now are 155 cases. On the 155 cases, FIRs and non-FIR complaints were registered, where investigations are going on. So now let's look at which brings the actuality of the cases to 155 on record, and 73 were frivolous, basically, family disputes and land disputes. Now the Christian population is 2 crore and above. Are you going to tell me that because of 155 cases of altercations that have happened between communities, religious communities, for reasons which are being investigated, are all the 2 crore plus population of Christians under danger? The messages that are being taken out is that under the BJP, which is basically the political wing, according to some Christian leaders of the RSS, is driving a communal agenda in India. And I don't believe that for one word. Because if you go by what Bishop 𝙒𝙗𝙖𝙩𝙤 Julius of the Malankara Orthodox Syrian Catholic Syrian Church in Kerala said, he in fact came out very strongly and he said claims of Christian community being persecuted in India is an unnecessary propaganda unleashed internationally, intentionally and internationally by vested interests, and that it is mounted to insult our great nation. In fact, he goes on to say that you used to be getting calls, and he still gets calls about Christians being in danger in India from people abroad, and he keeps trying to figure out why are they saying these things. Altercations happen in all parts of the world. So the Christian strategy, and I was talking to some church leaders a couple of weeks ago, and one thing is very clear, that the church has decided that it is not going to stand with Prime Minister Modi and the BJP as far as the Roman Catholic Church is concerned. The Kerala, the Malankara Orthodox Church, or any of the churches that exist in the side of Malabar, for example, they might gravitate to Prime Minister Modi. But certain sections, especially in the Catholic Church, the Jesuits, are working very diligently and very, very strategically against the BJP and against Prime Minister Modi because of their misbeliefs. Now, why is it important for the BJP and Prime Minister Modi to have an outreach as far as the Roman Catholic Church and the Christians are concerned? Because Christians are as equal as a Hindu or a Muslim, as an integral citizen of this country. They are also responsible to nation building, and they are also responsible for the wrong that exists in terms of perception building. The error that the Christian community is making is by creating the fear psychosis against uh, against the government that exists and the political party that exists, is leading for many of these Christians to want to leave India and go out of India and pursue work. Look at cases in Goa where many Christians have opted for the Portuguese citizenship and decided to go and live in Portugal and then move to UK. And then they worry about their lands that exist in Goa because they have a connect. They're always connected back to their motherland. But this is the fear psychosis, and it does not benefit the Christian community. It does not benefit the Christian community to move out. So Christian leaders need to be practical, and that practicality can only come when the Christian leaders and the government and the BJP sit down and iron out their differences or their misconceptions about each other. Because being a Christian boy or man of Christian faith and believing in the Sanatan Dharma principles, I think we need to build bridges rather than to burn bridges. And that goes out to the church leaders and the government itself. Build bridges rather than burn it, because the Christians are an integral part of the Indian society. Now, having said that, prior to the election, you had a BJP leader that made very strong comments against the Christian community, which was again utilized to strike fear into the minds of the Christian community. So a lot of them, I mean, I'm not saying you're right for your perception. You don't need to necessarily like Modi or like the BJP. But you cannot create this fear psychosis because a Christian is as much a part of India. The more fear psychosis you create with the existence of this government, the more people are going to leave. And that is the trend that has been happening for a very long time. Now, you are looking at BJP as a prime party. You're looking at Congress as a party. Are the Christians telling us that Congress and the other parties are less communal than the rest? That's where the irony lies. So, Prime Minister Modi as a brand has a huge following as far as international is concerned, and a large community in India is concerned, and some within the Christian community as well. But that outreach needs to extend itself. Second, what and the other most important thing that happened in Karnataka, which we failed to look at from a Hindu perspective, is that look at the vote share. So you had BJP that did about 36 or 37, and it marginally increased by a few percentage, point something. Congress increased extensively because every vote that was supposed to go to the JDS actually transferred to the Congress, if you look at it in that number. And a large quantity of the minority vote, which is the Muslim minority and the Christian minority, which sometimes used to go to JDS and get split with the JDS, actually all transferred to the Congress. So what you had is a consolidation of the votes. What you had is are the minorities coming together and saying, okay, we are going to vote the BJP out of Karnataka. And that's exactly what happened. And that is why Congress went up to 41% plus. Now take that in contrast to what is going to happen in the Lok Sabha. In the Lok Sabha, the NDA and the BJP got about 37.3 percent vote, 32% vote, which means that the remaining 63 odd percent did not vote for the BJP. The, the opposition does not need 63% to vote to win. They need almost 38 or 39 or 40% to win. For that, they will do a consolidation. Consolidation that will be triggered. I'm saying this again and I keep repeating. In the run up to 2024, expect religious conflagrations across India to increase. For that, they need to, for them to move to 40% or 39% vote, there is a need for religious conflagrations wherein the polarizations, the minorities will completely move away from the BJP. And Hindus themselves, as you saw in Karnataka, the Lingayat community did not vote like they traditionally did for the BJP. The Hindus, a considerable amount of Hindus did not. BJP retained its voter base only because of the loyal BJP voter. They didn't gain anything marginally higher. So the point is, what is the restructuring that BJP needs to do? A is do not overuse or dilute the brand Modi without correcting the local leaders. If the local leaders are not effective, are not connected to the people, brand Modi is not going to work. It's not going to work even in the Lok Sabha election if the local leader is not able to connect. People have a lot of faith in Prime Minister Modi at a ground level. Yes, there are questions that are raised in the minorities, but there are some within the minorities also who appreciate the work that Prime Minister Modi is doing. Because as a country, at a Lok Sabha level, the country takes center stage in terms of so they are interested in where the country is going. But with this continuous propaganda that is happening, with this reports of religious freedom and how India is so back as far as religious freedom indexes is concerned, which we know is false, but there is no counter that has happened to that from more effectively from the Indian government. Therefore, you're going to have these problems at a ground level. I mean, I can tell you, there was a meeting that was held in Goa 2 days back, where they went after the Goa government. My mother had got a message to attend that meeting in Goa, which happened in 𝙒𝙗𝙗 itself, and the priest had announced the event and encouraged people to come for that. That event was pro Goa, but it was anti-government that exists in Goa at this point of time, which is the BJP government. It raised questions on environmental issues and concerns on infrastructure development that a lot of the activists have been raising. So the church actively made that announcement in the parishes. So there is a concentrated effort. Therefore, it is important for the government to work with the minorities and the Hindu communities if they want to get to the next level as far as 2024 is concerned.
Savio, let me ask you a simple question. If the Bombay government was not sure that it would be able to free the temples, then why make that announcement and then not do it? Isn't that again something where the majority community also feels that these guys made a promise only to not implement it?
But that's exactly what I'm saying, no? I'm saying at the end of the day, by certain ineffective local leaders, you are alienating certain people based on their religious mindset, because the Hindus expect a certain amount of thing from the government because they see it as a Hindu majority party, which is in that case the boon. But you have the Christians and the Muslims who see that as the bane because they're looking at BJP as a Hindu majority party. And here you have Prime Minister Modi, because he's Prime Minister of India, trying to work in the interest of the entire nation, which includes all the communities. So you're in a catch-22 situation, and promises made in Karnataka should have been fulfilled in the interest of the Hindus as well. Now look at the anti-conversion bill. Look at that reservation which that was there for the Muslims, which they played around with.
And that was
Now,
wrong. That was plain wrong. That was dumb. Because it's been there for
right,
many years, and now to pull it back was wrong. I agree.
right. So there is actually a very serious critical errors. You see, no matter which way we want to look and how much we believe that we are evolved as citizens and we want development, at the base of our decisions on policies or politicians, religion plays a very, very crucial role. You might want to color it and say, no, we are educated, we are literate, we are a progressing India. At the base level, even the most educated person listens to the religious leaders' direction as far as voting is concerned. And that's the truth. So when you're going to impact the Hindu community, you're going to impact the Christian community and the Muslim community, you are obviously going to face repercussion. And that's exactly what happened in Karnataka. All of them were upset. All of them were upset in their own measures, and that is what the results proved. Now, have the people decided on the best political party? I don't want to sound biased, because I do have a bias as far as BJP is concerned. But I hope and I pray that Congress delivers on the promises that they made to the people of Karnataka. Because, like I said, you don't get the government you need, you get the government you deserve, which is what will be the case in this.
So what you're saying is the state unit messed it up, and perhaps even the Modi visit for 7 days maybe pulled back a few seats. Even those would have probably gone. Okay,
Yes,
so I
that
get
could
that.
happen.
So sometimes the BJP government at the center also tends to put self-quotes. I'll give you an example. On Friday night, they said that 2,000 rupee notes are being phased out, and those who want to change the 2,000 rupee notes, they need to fill in a simple form. They have to give in some ID details, deposit up to 20,000 a time, and take it out. Within 24 hours, SBI comes out with a circular that says you don't need to furnish any ID details. The whole idea of bringing this was to ensure that no fake currency that is being printed over time, not just by Pakistan, but also by China,
Yeah.
would not make it into India. And now, by taking away that requirement, they basically are enabling anybody who has a 2,000 rupee note to come in and exchange it for the old one, or for a lower denomination. Why these kinds of... See, what I'm saying is, you could have not put that ID requirement in the first place, wait for a week, see how the deposits are coming, and then if you see like the same guy showing up 4 or 5 times, then somebody's trying to, game the system, and then put in some safeguards. So why this kind of a flip-flopping?
Well, I can't, I can't really comment on why the government has done what it is, because I'm not privy to their process as far as the finance ministry is concerned. I only believe that the phasing out of the rupees 2,000 note was something that was going to be an eventuality anyway. It was something that was planned some time back, and there were not many 2,000 notes in circulation at all. But now that you've got the fact that 2,000 rupee notes were there is a lot of black money with that particular denomination. There is also the element of the counterfeit that was being done. So I think the government, yes, it has erred in its communication, and that seems to be the problem with the government in most cases, as we have seen with the CAA. They erred in their communication with the farm laws. They erred with the communication. I think the problem is with some of the members of the social media that exist and some of the communicators that exist. The 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 belief of communicating stems from an element of humility. Actually, when you speak from a government point of view, you speak from an element of humility, and then you convey the most important thing, that is receptible to the person who's listening to what you're saying, and not what you're saying in your own style. It has to be receptible to the person that you're talking to. Like in the CAA, the biggest error was that they did not mention the timeline of when the CAA actually comes into being, which is December 31st, 2014. If you were in the country uh, up till then, right? and the fact that it had nothing to do with Muslims in India. It took 7 days for them to actually then get their act together and start communicating because they thought everybody would accept it. People don't accept things that are controversial, that are made to seem controversial, and when you have a lobby working against the government. So communication has to be very tight. Now look at the communication that's coming out now by certain members of the social media post the loss of Karnataka. They've been absolutely harsh and absolutely arrogant. You know, Prime Minister Modi does not have an air of arrogance in his communication, at least to the people. He might have it with the opposition, but to the people, he does not. So you have to do a little bit of restructuring that is going on. See, people in India are very simple people, see, and they have seen the Congress. They've seen a lot of political parties. They're seeing a good leader in Prime Minister Modi. But what they will never tolerate is when it starts impacting them, like the corruption in Karnataka, which is why, whether it's Modi or not, they will look at the local leader. So the BJP needs to introspection into what is not only going wrong in Karnataka, what could go wrong in Rajasthan, what could go wrong in Madhya Pradesh, what could go wrong in Chhattisgarh. There are elements of things going wrong over there as well. Don't ever take the opposition to be lightly, because the opposition is not governed by the brains over here. The opposition is governed by brains that are internationally looking at India and wanting to control India. The opposition might just be playing into the hands of what the Western imperialists want from India. And we know that is happening. You can see the trend of that. You have a Joe Biden praising Prime Minister Modi. And a week ago, you had the US State Department talk about India's four religious freedom indexes. Is Joe Biden not aware that his own department in the government has made such a ridiculous claim as far as India's press freedom is concerned and religious freedom is concerned? We have to be careful of what is happening in terms of international intent in India. And we have to also play our own game, keep the enemies close and keep the friends close and enemies closest. But we as a nation should rise above all this. We should rise above religion and look at our country and our state for development. Now, if Prime Minister Modi has been voicing strongly against corruption, okay, and strongly against what's going wrong in this country or what went wrong in this country when Congress and other political parties existed and were there in government, then the corruption in BJP also needs to be corrected. No? There is no smoke without a fire. And that's exactly what happened in Karnataka. There were loads of cases of corruption that were alleged. There should have been an investigation. I mean, Prime Minister Modi has come on stage and spoken about eradicating corruption step by step. Then why don't you do it on what's happening in the BJP ruled states as well? For example, let me give you an example that happened in Goa, which I addressed and which created a lot of animosity for me within the BJP in Goa. You had a tender that was given out, okay? Not a tender, actually. There was a work order given out by a particular ministry for the construction of a particular infrastructure. The amount was rupees 50 crores, and then subsequently, recently, it went up to 65 crores. Now, as per the CPWD rules, any infrastructure development that is 5 lakh and above needs to go through a process of a tender. Did this particular project, which was cleared by the minister and claimed to be cleared by the cabinet, gets passed off without a tender, and it's given to just one person? I did not allege that there was corruption, but when you yourself vitiate the process that has been set up by the government itself on infrastructure development of such amount, then there has to be questions asked, no? The state government has ordered a probe now after the setting up of the technical committee. I hope something fruitful comes out of it, because the Directorate of Vigilance highlighted these issues, that there were discrepancies in the entire thing. Now, my question is very simple. In the discussion that was held later, I was told by the minister himself, and this is the arrogance I talk about in some, which do not do good for Prime Minister Modi and the senior leaders in BJP, who are genuinely not so arrogant. So the minister, I asked him, sir, why did you do this? I mean, is there a process? He turns around and tells me that the cabinet is supreme, you cannot question it. Cabinet is supreme. So I laughed at him and I said, I think this is where the problem is. The cabinet is not supreme. The people are supreme because people vote you into cabinet. And if Prime Minister Modi could have withdrawn the farm laws based on unwarranted pressure that happened at that point of time, then who are you? That is the arrogance of some of the ministers. Will it affect the BJP in the long run? I hope they correct some of these arrogant ministers.
Well, we will wait and see. Thanks for that explanation, Savio. Let's take a couple of questions that we have from our viewers. Raghunandan wants to know, how can we trust Christian when they attack Hindus in Manipur and do conversion, I think, and trying to make Hindu minorities and eventually genocide of Hindus like what they did to pagan Rome?
Well, you can trust Christians for a very simple reason. The Christians are also sons and daughters of Mother India. Just because some of them within the community are religious zealots and believe in converting people for reasons other than religion, and does not mean every Christian is bad. Please understand that the conversions that are happening, a large section of the conversions do not relate to the Roman Catholic Church. They relate to certain communities or denominations of Christians like the Believers and the Jehovah Witnesses and various other believers to be the main who are involved in conversions. And a lot of them need to be under question. But if somebody makes a willful choice to conversion and is an adult, then I don't think anybody has a right to question that. But what you have a right to question is if it's through coercion, if it's through allurement, if it's through demonizing Hindu gods, and therefore you bring people to another faith. Those are questions that need to be answered by those Christian pastors who are converted.
I thought I had one more question, but I don't seem to be able to find it. So we will let it go for now. So thank you so much, Savio. And viewers, I hope you get a feel for where things are going. So one question, this is my personal question before we let go. The Christian community in India is very educated. Why are they seeking direction from the clergy for which party to vote?
Okay. So a lot of the people in the Christian community, having been educated, their education has come basically by Catholic institutions that have been around. Okay.
Right.
So there is a general confidence in a priest. Okay. Like yesterday, I had done a talk with another friend of mine, Suzanne, and I spoke about what is Christ's message and how I find it so similar to what was Jesus's message and how I find it similar to my awakening of Sanatan Dharma and how I started to understand it, especially about finding God in you and around you, belief system. And the Catholic priest actually called me and said, I was so impressed by your talk that it actually stirred in me a rationale that maybe what you're saying is right. This gentleman is a 55-year-old plus Catholic priest who's educated in theology and things like that. So the Christians are educated. The priest plays a very crucial role in his deciding factor because they have confidence. That is why they go to the priest for confessions and for telling their problems, right? If they didn't have that trust, they wouldn't have gone to them. So when the priest comes out and tells them that, hey, listen, let's vote for this particular person who seems to be more righteous and more working towards the interest of the community and the state, they accept it. Some question it and some don't vote. Now let's take Goa, for example. When Manoj Parrikar in 2012 created bridges with the Christian community, the BJP got a majority and considerable amount of Christians voted for the BJP. If you come back to the recent elections, okay, what did you have? If you look at the numbers, yes, there have been some Christian MLAs that have won. Then they had the imports that came in from the Congress as well, 8 of them. Again, some of them Christian MLAs. If you study the numbers, you will realize that a large amount of Christians, like they did in 2012, did not vote for the BJP. They loved Narendra Modi. Some later on when they loved Manohar Parrikar. Some later on when he went to the defense ministry were a little upset with him because he could not complete what he intended to do in Goa. And then they started getting critical of him. Even a priest had gone on the pulpit and said that Manohar Parrikar suffered because he was cursed for the kind of destruction he brought to Goa. And of course, the BJP, there was a case filed and then withdrawn, and he was forgiven in what was considered to be a great effort by the BJP to forgive their enemies. But personally, I wouldn't have. Okay, I would ensure that that priest should have gone to jail for the words that he said. But the point is, people believe in religious leaders, just like Hindus believe in their religious leaders if they are directed, right? So I don't think it's anything wrong. Is it wrong for the church to have a strategy against the BJP? I don't think it's wrong. I just think that it is misplaced. Okay, you are within your right to have like something or dislike something. But if your information that allows you to make that judgment is wrong or misplaced, and by that you lead the others to be misplaced, that is where you're wrong.
Savio, look at an average Hindu, right? He sees the Muslims, the Christians, the Parsis, and the Sikhs have full control of their religious institutions. He doesn't, or she doesn't. And this problem is, how is this hurting anybody else? This is what I don't understand from this government also. And you want to say sabka vikas.
I had this discussion with a very close friend of mine who's a Hindu, and we were discussing about the issues of temples, for example. The control of temples are not with the Hindus, right? So I said, because the church's control lies with the church, the mosque controls lie with the mosque, but the Hindu temples lie with the government. Okay. Now, according to him, he told me this has got something to do that was mentioned way back when the constitution was formed. So I asked him, and I continue to ask many of the Hindus, you are a majority that exists, right? How is it that you are not able to get the control of your own temples? And it is controlled by governments. Why? So in a Hindu majority country, the Hindus themselves are treated as a minority. Now, religious places become a very strong component of a societal thought process and a societal's belief within themselves. The church has its own control. The Islamic mosques and all have their own control. But why not for the Hindus? So you are still subjugated to the dictates of the government that dictates what you need to do with the money that comes in a temple. Right? Isn't that the reality?
Yeah, it is.
And that's sad.
Well, the DMK government wants to destroy Hinduism there. I mean, these guys are the other extreme. They have gone to pretty much off the cliff. See, the thing is, between your day-to-day problems and all these challenges, Hindus are getting lost, really. Anyway, I just want to make an observation here. It's not mundane to our topic.
One of the reasons I've come out vocally supporting my Hindu sisters and brothers is because I see this continuous demonization of the Hindus.
Yes.
By Western media, by people within the country. I'm trying to figure out what is so demonic about the Hindus. They have never been interfering. They have never been questioning people's faith. What they are questioning now, even in the Christian community, is the conversions. They might not have the knowledge about the religious denominations that exist in the Christian sects, but they want to protect their religion, which is why they're questioning the conversions that are happening. What is wrong with that? Unless you sit down and explain to them logically what is going on and who are really the people making the trouble, that's when Christians and Hindus can continue to live peacefully with each other. They have before. Why are they afraid of the Islamic radicals? Because look at what's happening in Kerala. You might want to deny it, but the church itself has raised the issue in Kerala. When the Hindus were raising the issue, everybody said, no, this is, communal, this is intentional against the Muslims. What happened when the church raised the issue? That time people sat up and took notice and said, oh, maybe, just maybe this might be true, right? The problem and why I stand with my Hindu sisters and brothers is because of this. While being a majority in India, you have to be demonized continuously. Now, let's say, for example, what happened in Manipur, as that question said. There is a clear conflict that happened in Manipur. Then that conflict is religious. There is a tribal community of Hindu belief that is demanding for a certain amount of reservation. Right?
Actually, it's more than that, isn't it? The state high court has ruled for it. And the others don't want this community to get reservation. That doesn't make sense to me.
Precisely the point I'm making.
Yeah. If the legal process has been observed, the problem is, this is all fine. The problem that people are saying now is that the government, in its enforcement of law and order, is actually going after the Hindu tribe. That is the problem.
Well, to a certain extent, that is true. That is certainly true. But the complexity of that issue over there is what is not coming out very clearly to everybody. There is this fight is not only reservation. This fight is a dominion of a particular religious control in that state, which is triggered by people who want to trigger communal tensions. Did you think Manipur would ever flare up on a religious conflagration? It's not happened in a very long time. Now it has. So expect religious conflagrations in different parts of the country on the basis of protecting one's religious interests. So the idea is to portray BJP as anti-minority. So BJP in its fear will not go against the minority. I'm saying that whether it's a minority or majority involved in a problem, if there's a conflict, then we have to get there to resolve it. And we have to figure out ways to avoid a conflict. Because conflict, religious conflict, there are two things that will happen in India, Sri, and I'm saying it again on your program. A religious conflict and a caste-based conflict are two major things that will happen from June right up till April 2024. Enough to trigger what I see as a very vicious hate propaganda in India. Now they're going to do it through various elements. They will try one, then go after another. The Karnataka election has given them that confidence to realize that a consolidation of minority vote, especially the minority that's gone up to 20 crores, can create a certain amount of trouble. You went after PFI. You think you have disbanded PFI. It's like a hydra. It keeps coming back in different forms. And you are going to see religious conflicts. I'm saying it because I believe it's going to happen. I foresee that the only way that you can destroy India and to take the BJP down is to bring the communal angle right up in the face. And that's when Western media will play. Today, let's look at BBC, for example. No? BBC did the documentary, raised questions on Prime Minister Modi, raised questions on the judiciary, raised questions on India. Why did they do that? What is their need? And they didn't complete the investigation because they didn't involve the Supreme Court judgment in. So there is a deliberate attempt to portray Narendra Modi. The Godhra riot issues will be played up. The Christians and the minorities in dangers will be played up. Rana Ayub gets invited at UNESCO to talk about the poor religious freedom that exists, the journalistic freedom that exists in India. Why? Have we ever countered it? We've not yet countered the entire allegations leveled against us. You see, at a ground level, people are getting confused. I'm not saying they're getting convinced, they're getting confused on what's happening. And in a confused state, you can just vote anywhere.
That is the problem. The moral compass of the Modi government needs to point to truth. Sometimes it is getting confused. Anyway, this is where we kind of, we have to agree to this, because they need to find that direction. And
I believe the government has to be a little bit more stern. I believe the government needs to be straight up and say this is wrong. I don't have to worry about religious appeasements. I'm not here to appease anybody. This is right, this is wrong. What is also important for the other members that support the government, they need to realize that not everybody who's in the minority is your enemy. They need to realize that. Not everybody here is there to bring down the BJP or to bring down Narendra Modi. We all want to work together. We all want to work in the interest of the country. You cannot define who's a national or an anti-national. The laws of the country define that. There are laws for this country. So I think we really need to rise up and think as Indians. We need to support the government because Prime Minister Modi is working in the interest of the people of India. It's clearly evident. Now the BJP needs to get a little strong and say, okay, if I'm not firm, I might just about lose in the race coming ahead. And Karnataka was the opening stance of what is going to happen. There are other state elections that are there. And the sad part is you have senior leaders like Mr. Amit Shah tell the people that they're going to win all these elections, that we will win the majority, we will win the majority. And when you don't win the majority, you send a very bad message down to the people at the ground level that, hey, maybe, they don't know what they are doing. They're saying they're winning, but they don't win. Or you can argue and say, like many of us do, that, that's just encouraging people to come out and vote by telling them it's that we are winning. So more people believe that we're winning. The truth is that 2024 is not going to be a walk in the park. It is going to be an uphill task for all political parties. And the moot points will be religion and caste. Not different.
Thank you so much, Savio. And a lot of stuff that we discussed today, a very open-minded discussion. And I really appreciate your comments and candor. And viewers, you can put in your comments on what you think is the right direction that the Modi government should be doing. It needs to be more decisive. We've been saying this for a long time. It needs to also be better communication. It needs to have that better communication so that people understand the intent. For example, this 2,000 rupee note. So whatever it is, I think these are some things that needs to be done. Otherwise, like you said, it's not a cakewalk. Thanks once again. Namaskar and talk to you soon.
God bless you.
God bless you.